Well, hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, your hostess. Can I do this? This is a under $5 meal challenge by Bushcrafty Cooks, and I'm cooking for two people, so you can adjust this meal according to how many people you have in your house. And I'm using items out of my pantry, items that we grew, items that we got for a bargain. Y'all, I do a lot of scratch cooking and I know how to stretch meat and I know how to stretch a meal. My parents grew up in the Great Depression and World War II, and I was taught all of those skills growing up. So, this is also Frugal Living Challenge 25, which is hosted by me, and it is a year-long collaboration, so you can jump on board anytime you want to. I will be challenging a couple of people towards the end of this video. So I recently did a video on taking a pork loin and seeing how many meals I could make out of it for two people, or how many for four people. And so I cut these up. They're pork steaks. Y'all, two pork steaks came to $1.32.5 for two, because I used a pork loin that was $8, or around 8 pounds. I think it was about $13, and I divided up how many meals I got out of it and came up with that figure. So $1.32 for two pork steaks. Unbelievable, right? Well, that comes to about 76 cents a steak. Get this. You can do this too. The prices will vary because of the area you live in, and it may not be the same amount as what I got, but I wanted to share that with you. I pulled out some broccoli, and I actually had broccoli spears, and I went ahead and put it through my food processor to grind it up, because we're going to make a stuffing with broccoli and some apples. Of course, it's going to have some onion in it and some celery. The celery was grown by me, so the celery was free, except for the price of the plants, and I think they were $1.25 a piece or something like that. So really inexpensive. And I'm going to use some of my celery. I'm also going to be using some scrap vegetable broth that I made out of scraps. So free. Y'all, when you can yourself and you do things yourself, you save so much money. And this is going to be really good in this. I made this a few months ago. I'll see if I can find the video for it and link that. I also have some sourdough bread that's been sitting in my freezer. Now, this is going to be diabetic friendly. When you take bread and you freeze it, or you put it in the refrigerator for about 48 hours, it changes the starch structure, and it makes it something that is called a resistant starch, which means it slows down the digestion in your intestines. So you won't be getting the sugar spikes when you do this. Now, it doesn't bring it down a lot, but it does bring it down, and I'm using sourdough on top of that, which makes it a better choice. So I've cut off some slices. These are really big slices, y'all. And I put them through the toaster, and then I had them sitting out on a plate so that they'd kind of get a little bit of a crouton or breadcrumb consistency. I'm going to use some poultry seasoning, but you can use any kind of seasoning that you like for your dressing. We're going to make a dressing. These are going to be stuffed pork chops or stuffed pork steaks. And in place of the onion, I'm going to use some minced onions, but I do have onions that I could just chop up, but I don't need a whole onion today, so I'm just going to use a little bit of this to give some flavor to our dressing, along with some salt and pepper. And for the other side, it's going to be beans. Now, white beans, like navy beans, are your best option for a diabetic. It doesn't spike your sugar as much. I haven't tried the canary beans. So I have canary beans that's been in my pantry since 2024, and we're going to try them out today. as a side. So 2 pork steaks, $1.32. All the ingredients for the stuffing was $1.50. The beans were 72 cents. The scrap vegetable broth and the stale bread I put down as free. The total meal came to $3.74 for 2 meals. So I've created some breadcrumbs, or you could use croutons, either one. And I'm just going to go ahead. This was 2 slices, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to the bowl. I don't want a lot of bread in there, but I want enough to bind this together. And then we got to add our apples, and I'll get that ground up next. So I'm a hands-on cook. I cook with my hands. And I'm just going to grab a handful, which is probably about a half a cup of this broccoli that I had already cut up. So I'm just going to add that into my bowl and get the rest of it back into my freezer. And there is my apples. I may need a bigger bowl. I'm probably going to have to get a bigger bowl, y'all, because this is going to be a lot. All right, bigger bowl. And I'm just going to get all of this in that bowl. And we're just going to give that a toss. So it's going to have a green tinge to it because it's got broccoli in it and it's got apple and celery. So this is smelling really good. And I'm going to be tasting this to see how much I need. And if I need more breadcrumbs, I'll know in a moment. But we want to make sure that we got it incorporated. So I'm going to put in a teaspoon of my poultry seasoning. I don't think I'm going to need more than that, but I'm going to taste it, and if I need to adjust it, I will, and I'll let you know. And I'm going to put in probably a tablespoon of the onion. So 3 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon. Let me get my vegetable broth opened. And I'm just going to guesstimate. This is 4 cups. I don't think I'm going to use that much. I'm going to start with about a cup. And we'll go from there, because all we're doing is moistening that bread. And we want it to be able to ball up. And I do need to add some salt and pepper to this, more than likely. I'm going to give it a taste, though, and see if I need to add anything else. It's got a good flavor right now. And I really don't need any salt because I think the vegetable broth had some salt in there. Now, if I added more bread, I would probably add some more liquid to this. But I'm going to have to press it to get some of that liquid out to get it to form a ball. So that is where we're at with this. I went ahead and added another teaspoon of my poultry seasoning because we like it to have a little bit of a flavor to it. And this is going to be so delicious, y'all. You've heard of apple and broccoli salad, and I'm playing off of that a little bit to make my own idea of a dressing. So I thought this would be really good. Now I could go ahead and grind up another slice of bread and throw it in there to absorb some of that liquid. But really and truly, I don't think we need to do that. And I will be squeezing it out before I stuff my pork chops. But we're going to let that sit for about 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to get our beans started. I have rinsed my beans. I've got approximately 1 cup of canary beans in my Instant Pot. I'm going to go ahead and add in some minced onion. And probably about 2 teaspoons. I'm going to add the rest of my vegetable broth. to flavor my beans, plus a little bit more water. I will add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. Usually it's about a half teaspoon of salt. And about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. Now you can adjust these seasonings however you like. Just from being a canner, I know about how much I need of my seasoning to make these taste good. Now once they're partially cooked, you can add a little bit of bacon fat to this, because a lot of beans during the Great Depression, they used bacon fat, or they used tallow, whatever they had on hand, or a piece of fat back to flavor their beans. And so we're going to go ahead and get this covered and get this going. Let me look. I got it set for pressure. And I'm going to do these for 25 minutes and just see if they're done. If they're not, I'll go a little bit longer. But we're going to go ahead and start it at that, and we'll be back here in a short. Now my pork steaks have already been washed. They've been in my freezer. And before I froze these, I made sure I had them sliced, so I could use them like a thick pork chop if I wanted to. And they're still partially frozen, so that wasn't planned, but I'm going to go ahead and open them up, get my hands washed after handling them. Get them opened up, and I'll be right back. So I'm over here on the side. I know you can't see me. Let me move this out of the way a little bit. And I'm just going to reach in here, and I'm going to grab a handful, and I'm going to squeeze some of that liquid out, because you don't want that liquid in there. And I'm just going to put a ball in the center of each of these. And we're going to stuff these with that. Let me move this back up. So I'm going to fold this over, and hopefully we'll have a really good stuffed pork chop or pork steak. So some of that is going to fall out. That's fine. I'm going to wash my hands again. We're going to get salt and pepper on these. I'm going to salt and pepper these generously. My husband loves pepper, so we're going to put a lot of pepper on here. And some salt. I'm going to make sure my paper is adjusted, because we want to capture any liquids that might come off of this. So those are stuffed and ready to go in the oven. I'm preheating my oven, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the remaining of this and get this in a casserole dish, and we're going to put that in the oven as well, because my husband likes extras. There they are. They're going into a 350-degree preheated oven for 35 to 60 minutes. You want the meat temperature to be 145 degrees Fahrenheit, and the stuffing, the internal temperature should be 165 degrees Fahrenheit for safety reasons. And we're going to put our stuffing in there as well and let that cook alongside. And there is our stuffing getting ready to go into the oven. Here's our cheat meal. Look at this. Perfectly cooked. Oh, those canary beans are delicious, by the way, and so is the dressing. Can't wait to dig in. Here's some content I think you might like. Thank you for visiting our homestead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hype, and share to help our small channel grow. See you next time for more simple living, frugal tips, and farmyard fun.